Hi, good evening, everybody. So we're going to get started. My name is Susan Hannon. I am a school counselor in the high school, and with me today are the fellow counselors Amanda Mankey and Evan Miller, hiding back there. Our principal is here, Dr. Wilson, and along with some of our teachers. The English staff is outnumbering the math staff tonight. We have Miss Kara Slattery. Okay, we have Miss Christina Lee. Okay, Miss Megan Highland and Miss Shelley Swick. So they're here to support us, which is great. So thank you for helping us out tonight. Appreciate it. It is great to see you, especially people in person. It's been a long time since we've presented in person, and it's just very nice to see you. Those at home, we welcome you as well. We are still required to wear masks, so if you're having any trouble hearing us in here or at home, please just let us know. If you have any questions in the room, please just raise your hand at any time. We'll get to you. Or at home, please send an email and with questions to S. Hannon. Yes, that says Shannon, but my first name is Susan, so don't get confused. But shannon@ryeneck.org. You can address your questions to there. Okay, we ready? All right, so get out your pen, your paper, your notes app, whatever you need, while we take you on the college application process journey together. And Miss Melinda Falchetti, our department chair for the English department. By the way, those English people, they write their letters of recommendation, so be nice to them. Oh, and sorry, senior class advisor as well. Very important person there. Okay, so we're going to start with admissions trends, just a couple things that are happening. Last year, many schools went test optional because of COVID and the lack of opportunity to test, and that has continued this year for your class to almost all of the schools in the country. So that's in your favor if you don't test well, but of course, if you do test well, you can submit your test scores that will help your application. So another one is that many students are taking risks these days and taking advantage of the test optional, and more people are applying to selective colleges, taking a risk to see if they can just get in. So that is lowering the admit rate at the most selective colleges. That on the flip side, it also means that fewer students are applying to the other schools, some of the less selective, so you have a higher percentage of getting into those schools. An interesting fact that I found out is that there'll be fewer applications from domestic students. Does anybody have an idea why there might be fewer kids applying to college for this grade? Anybody? That's because the birth rates declined, starting with this year. So from this year and the years moving forward, the amount of children being born is actually less. So there's actually less people applying to college in your class year. And finally, colleges are working very hard to recruit the underserved communities because they're trying to create a more diverse and inclusive population at their schools. So those are just a couple of trends that are out there. Just wanted to share those with you. The next one is what you, the student, can control. Students, this is your time to shine. You pick the schools you're going to apply to. You fill out the application. You schedule your meetings with the school counselor. You check the status of your applications. You continue to put in the academic effort. Parents, don't worry, you can help too, but your job is mostly going to be as a secretary, as an advisor, to help with the tiers, things like that, if that happens. So that you have a huge role here too, but the students, be in control. This is you're the one going off to a college or university. Virtual college visits. So this year, 2 years ago, we had colleges come to our conference room, sit down and talk to the students. Last year, students had to go virtually from their Chromebooks onto a virtual meeting. This year, we have invited many colleges will be here in the virtual sessions, but we've also opened up our conference room again. The person's not there in person, but they're up on the screen, so we can accommodate students in that conference room if you want to be together with your friends, or you can go on your Chromebook and log into the same session. Those visits are on Naviance. Students should be familiar with Naviance, and the directions are on the Class of 2022 website, so you can find those there. Financial realities. Heard a lot about financial aid in the previous session. College is expensive. it's our opinion, it is in your best interest to have the financial conversation now, not later. What can you afford? Okay, what can't you afford? Because if you, the student, gets into your number one choice and it's not affordable and you don't find out until late, that might be really hard to take. So families should have that conversation now and make that part of the entire college process. And the last one, communication is key. If there's one thing you take away from tonight, it's communication with us, your school counselors, is very important. Sorry, I keep taking this off because I want to see you, but I can't read. It's a catch-22. Working together, all of us, is always better. And here's what we've been doing to get things rolling. We've already been in the classroom talking about the virtual visits and the college, Navion's college application process. We've sent home weeklies over the last couple of weeks. We've posted information on the class of 22 classroom. Many of you have already made appointments to see us individually or as a family. Moving forward, keep in mind that the information we share is important and relevant. Okay, important and relevant. So please open the emails, pay attention to our presentations, and reach out to us with any questions or concerns. We are here for you every step of the way. Why? Because this process, right? Oh, they're over there. This process is our favorite part of the job. So we're here, we want to help, okay? I'm gonna toss it over to Mr. Miller, who's gonna take you through how do I apply and some other slides.
Thank you, Ms. Hannon. All right. So let's get into it. How do I apply to college? As you can see here, we have many different application types, so it can get confusing, but there are many different ways. Starting off with the most common, for lack of a better word, common application process is the common application. We like to refer to this almost as a one-stop shop for most colleges, as there are over 900 colleges and universities that use the common application in all 50 states and even multiple other countries. The real benefit here is you can fill out all of your information at one time, such as personal, family, academic, and extracurricular information, and easily submit that to many colleges with the click of a button. We've actually had our students begin filling out the common application in their college and career prep class in junior year, so the application should be both familiar and even already started, which is also great. Next is the coalition application, similar type of system that allows you to apply to many different schools, with a smaller number of colleges that participate in the coalition application, with that number being about 150 colleges utilize this exclusive application. Again, information can be filled out once, submitted to multiple schools. After that, we have the Common Black College Application, the CBCA. So again, it's a one-stop shop for students who might be looking to apply to historically black college and universities. So it's very simple, where you can input all of the information and send them out to your schools. Next, we have the SUNY and CUNY applications. SUNY being the State University of New York system, and CUNY being the City University of New York system. With that, many colleges in the SUNY and CUNY system are on the common application or these other application systems here, but for students who might be looking to apply to many SUNY schools or many CUNY schools, this is a place where you can go and submit one application, and that can go to those different SUNY and CUNY schools. Again, this is really about ease of use, ease of access. The application process truly has never been easier as it's gone over time. Next up, we have individual school applications. So some colleges and universities have actually maintained their own individual application that would not be found on any of the systems listed above. So for example, one that comes to mind might be at Georgetown. They have their own specific application on their own specific website. So I can say that these schools with school-specific apps are definitely more few and far between. But speaking with your counselors, and as Ms. Hannon said, that communication with us is a really great way for us to answer that question if you're unsure. We have a question. Yes, please. Let me grab the microphone for you. Actually, it's right behind you.
We'll yell next.
So, I haven't asked my son yet, but is it possible for the parents to see how they're filling out the Common App
So there's only one login there, so just sharing your login information through like Common Application would be the best way for you to look in and see that. I can also say that what we like to do with students is also log in with the student in our office and walk through line by line and give it a little double check and a look over before applying. Good question, thank you. All right. So moving forward, really, again, all these systems just make the application life as simple as possible. So if you have questions about that, Naviance will show usually, is this school on the Common Application? And again, utilize your counselors and check and see how you can apply to the schools that you are interested in. Next, this can get even more confusing over time, but there are many different names through the college process with different deadlines that might all sound the same, so we're going to break them all down for you. Not all schools have every single decision option that we have on the screen here. Some, for example, may not have early decision. Some might only have early and regular. It just depends on the school. So starting off, early decision. The biggest word here is binding. This is a binding contract when you apply. Students apply early decision. Maybe if it's a school they've always dreamed of attending, it's always been their number one choice. They think they have an awesome shot there, so this is my one choice I'm going to go with. Secondary benefit of early decision, you can be complete with the application process earlier on. You can only apply to one college early decision. This contract that you sign when you apply says I'm only applying here, and should you be accepted, you're essentially saying I'm committed to you. So you're signing that contract, you're admitted, I'm attending, barring any unforeseen major circumstances. Early decision 2, below that, colleges that offer early decision will also sometimes offer early decision 2. It's similar, it's also a binding contract, but this option is typically a month after or so an early decision deadline, allowing students to then apply at a little bit later time if they were unsure about that early decision in the first place. Sometimes students who may have applied early decision and did not receive the acceptance they were looking for then have that option to apply as an early decision to school. Again, biggest thing I want to make note of there is that one word, binding contract. Should you be admitted, you are telling the school, I will be attending. Next up, we have early action, non-binding. So with that, the biggest thing, there's no signed contract, no commitment when you apply with this deadline. So students can apply to as many schools as they would like with the early action deadline. We do encourage students to apply early action and early on should their application be complete and they're prepared for that. It's definitely a great option because when you apply earlier, you will also typically receive your decisions earlier on than should you apply in the later process at regular decision. That allows you more time when you can look at your decisions, see what options are on the table, look at your financial aid packages like Ryan Depew just said before, and gives you some time to really process and boil down what the best decision is for the student and for the family as a whole. And also to make a note, dates for early action are as early as October 15th, so making sure that the students know if there's a school that has an October 15th deadline, they should definitely be coming in, making an appointment with their counselors so we can go through, take a look at the application, make sure things are good to go as we are just about 2 weeks away from that date. Early action restricted and single choice early action is really an indicator to colleges that this is their first choice of school, saying that they're only going to file one early application to a private school. The schools that have this option, it's really a great way to show this is my number one choice, this is what I'd really like to attend, but again, you're not signing this early decision contract that's making it a binding opportunity with that school. Next up is regular decision, also non-binding. There's no commitment there, so same as early action in that sense, but typically these decision or application deadlines are later than the early action. Early action you can typically see around late October and November. Regular decision, you can see those December, January, sometimes February with those decision deadlines. After that, we have our rolling. It says rolling decision, but really it's not a decision type that you select, but a college will be up there and saying that we have a rolling admissions process. Schools with rolling admissions process will evaluate applications as they receive them. So unlike early action and early decision, you don't choose that. It's just the way certain colleges run their application process. As I receive it, I will go ahead and get that back to you. Yes, for the question. And the microphone again. I'll grab that for you. Yell it out. Go. Question. So the question is, do you apply early action specifically if you are a good candidate in fitting what the college is looking for in an application? Well, early action, really a lot of the benefit also comes down to a term you might hear on college visits, but demonstrated interest. So colleges love to see that students are interested early. By applying early, you're showing I'm interested in the school. It doesn't necessarily have to be that one that's right in the mold with what you want, but if it's a school that you're very interested in, definitely applying early is great. If that answers your question. Perfect. Okay. Last thing here, rolling admissions. So again, that's just their process. So no hard deadline to submit applications for rolling. So that's the biggest piece for rolling. There's no specific deadline date there. They might just say as long as it's in before a certain time, but you can apply at any point in the process. So there are, as the asterisk here at the bottom, pay attention, there are separate deadlines for honors programs or portfolios and auditions for different scholarships or different types of programs. So these decision deadlines might be out there as just that specific general application to the school, but if there's a more specific program, such as those honors, take a look at that. They might have different deadlines, but that can be looked at right on their website. And again, if you're unsure, come chat with us in the counseling office and we can help you out. That's it for me. I'm going to invite up Miss Menke to take it away with the next slide. Thank you so much.
Shona, I'm going to add one additional piece to your early action question, and I think sometimes the advantage to early action is not only that demonstrated interest, but since you're applying early, and those deadlines are typically November 1, November 15th, December 1, you're also finding out your decision earlier in the process. So for some students, it's a good way, it's kind of a litmus test too. All right, am I good in terms of the number of schools I've applied to and where I've been accepted? Or do I need to maybe add some additional schools to regular decision or rolling? You're welcome. So I want to thank Mr. Miller, and good evening everyone here. It is wonderful to see you all in person, and thank you to those joining us at home as well. So once you've considered all of the application options Mr. Miller spoke about, it's time to actually apply. All of you will be applying online, as Mr. Miller said, either through the school's website, through the CUNY or SUNY application, the Common application, or the Coalition application. You all started the Common application last year in your college and career preparation class, so that's up and running. And most, if not all of you, should have rolled it over to the 2021-2022 application year. So anything the students, this is more so for parents, anything the students filled out last year in college and career prep, all of that information will be in the application and they're just adding to it. So they definitely had a jump start in getting the applying underway. So in order for your counselor to send your school materials online, you must fill out what's called the FERPA release authorization on the Common application. And then you need to log into your Naviance account to match with your Common App account. So something that we've seen come up over the years and some confusion is between those two platforms. So they are two different platforms. So essentially, Common App is where you're going to be applying and sending your information to the colleges, and Naviance is the tool where you'll request your transcripts to be sent. So it's two different platforms. One's for applying, one is for kind of tracking, organizing, and officially requesting transcripts. So under the FERPA on the Common App, we recommend that you waive your right to access letters of recommendation, as this indicates to the colleges that the information sent on your behalf is confidential between Rye Neck, the person who wrote it, and the institution that we're sending it to. So under FERPA, some of you may have seen invite recommenders via the Common application. You do not need to do this since we use Naviance. For those of you who may already have done so, it's okay, no worries. But anyone moving forward does not need to do this on the Common App site. If you have an outside recommendation letter, you will use this feature, and we ask that you see your counselor to work through this process individually with them. You must also officially request your transcripts using Naviance. You must complete this as well as the FERPA release authorization in order for your counselor to submit anything on your behalf. Without these, we're unable to do that. So those are two key pieces in the process on Common App and on Naviance. Yes?
I have a question. How do I request my transcript?
I'm getting there. That is coming. All right, so we ask that you request transcripts at least 10 school days before your application is due. So for instance, if you're applying early somewhere and you have a November 1 deadline, you should request your transcript via Naviance by October 18th. You should also follow up with your counselor individually to ensure that we're on the same page. So answering the question that just came through, the counselors came into English classes, I think at this point, it might have been 2 weeks ago. Okay, about 2 weeks ago, to let students know, we shared a step-by-step Google document that shows you how to complete that FERPA release on the Common App, how to match your Common App to your Naviance account, and also has additional tips to move you forward in the process. One of those tips being how to officially request your transcript on Naviance. So we also emailed this document to everybody in the senior class. The Google document is called Naviance Application Process. It is a link. It's going to be a link on our presentation tonight, and it is also in the class of 2022 Google Classroom. So you've gotten in a lot of different places, students, but parents, now you are aware this document is out there. It is super helpful. Like I said, it's step by step, and it brings you through everything. But of course, if you have questions as you're going through things, please see us. So when using any of the applications, be prepared to fill out supplements for each school you're applying to. Every school has its own requirements and protocol when applying, so make sure you read everything carefully and thoroughly. It's also important that you review your application several times, especially focusing on spelling, punctuation, grammar, etc. Your counselor will be happy to review applications before submission. So just like Ms. Hannon said, this is what we love to do. Please come in, let us look through it. We've seen these applications hundreds of times. We're very familiar with them, so we're happy to help and bring you through and look through each of the applications. You can schedule an in-person meeting or a Google Meet with your counselor to work through the process. We do ask, please organize your time and plan accordingly, meaning don't wait until the last minute to see us, as this adds unnecessary stress to everyone in the process. So once you have completed the FERPA authorization and request transcripts, now it's our turn. What do we do as your counselor? We are responsible for sending several items on your behalf. Okay, so number one, the transcript. So you'll be able to view your transcript on the student and parent portals. So make sure you look it over very carefully and let us know if there are any discrepancies. We also submit something that's called the secondary school report and the school profile. These are documents that provide colleges with the detailed information about Rye Neck, which in turn allows them to understand where you fit within the context of our school. So those documents are very helpful for admissions. So often we get the question, well, are they going to be compared to their friend who goes to Rye High School? No. So essentially what that secondary school report and school profile is doing is giving them the information about Rye Neck. We look very different than a Rye High School, right? A Mamaroneck High School. So those two documents are giving them the ability to understand you as the student within the context of the high school you're attending. We're also responsible for sending the counselor letter of recommendation as well as your teacher recommendations. And Ms. Hannon will discuss important steps in regards to the teacher recs coming up. So as you've been utilizing for a few years now, Naviance is a way to research, organize, and track the college process. Please make note that the counseling department will continue to use Naviance as a way to enhance our communication with you. As we've been doing, we will send you emails reminding you of meetings, college fairs, scholarship opportunities, upcoming deadlines, virtual college visits, and more. So parents, if you're not registered for Naviance, please get in touch with your child's counselor and we'll be happy to get you on board. Also, for students and parents, if you have a new email address, please make sure to update this on your Naviance portal to make sure that you're receiving the correspondence. Speaking of email addresses, we highly recommend that you create a separate email account strictly for the college process. This way you don't miss any important information sent to you by colleges. I know my own email, personal email, and how sometimes there's just so much you're inundated with and that you miss things. So that's a good way to ensure that a separate email account, you're just getting college information sent to you there. Okay, financial aid. So we all know money is an important aspect of the college process. For those of you who are not able to make the financial aid presentation at 6 p.m., the following is important information. For those of you who did, this will serve as important reminders. For many of you, applying for financial aid is a crucial part of the process, with the FAFSA being the premier application you need to fill out. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. So please note it's free, so you do not have to pay for this application. There are websites that look like the FAFSA that are actually scams and make you pay. So make sure that you're going to the .gov FAFSA website and that you're not paying for this application. You are able to file the FAFSA starting tomorrow, October 1. The first step for both students and parents is to apply for what's called an FSA ID. Essentially, that FSA ID is an electronic signature that you will need in order to submit the FAFSA. We have several links on our website, on the counseling page, and they're good resources for you to use in terms of financial aid. So depending on what colleges you're applying to, you may need to fill out the CSS profile. So the CSS profile is an online application that collects information used by certain colleges and scholarship programs to award institutional aid funds. Some schools will require you to fill out this application, which is located on the College Board website. On the website, you will find a list of schools that require the CSS profile. Please note, it is your responsibility to know whether any of the schools you're applying to require the CSS profile. Individual colleges may also require their own additional financial aid forms. So remember, carefully read all application requirements to every school you're applying to. And lastly, there are many scholarships available to students. A comprehensive website that you can use when researching scholarships is FastWeb, and we have a link to FastWeb on the Rye Neck Counseling website. So at FastWeb, you're able to create a profile which then matches certain scholarships to you. So it helps you sort through the thousands of scholarships that are on that site. And then each college has their own scholarship opportunities, which can be found on their respective websites. In regards to scholarships that are sent to Rye Neck and available to pick up here, you can check online at Naviance, the counseling website, the bulletin board outside of the attendance office, and of course, students, your best resource is Mrs. Kane, who is at the front desk as soon as you enter the counseling suite. So I say this every year to students during this presentation: become friends with Mrs. Kane. She is a great resource. She loves working through the scholarships with students. Our students are very successful with the scholarships that come through Rye Neck, so please keep an eye on this. Work with Mrs. Kane and fill them out. Get them done. All right, so as you've heard so far throughout this evening, details are key in this process. Therefore, find an organizational system that works for you to ensure that every part of the application process is complete. And remember, if you have any questions along the way, please see us. We're happy to help. I am now going to turn it over to Ms. Hannon, who's going to go through your checklist and some other key items.
Good job.
All right.
Miss Mankey and I have been doing this for almost 20 years together. I can almost give her speech at this point. Okay, so I am a checklist person. So that's why I'm on this. I'm all about crossing things off, checking boxes. So my students, when you come see me, you'll understand a little bit more. So in front of you is a checklist. Number 1, review your transcript. That is the most important part of your application. So your transcripts have been looked over by the counselors, and by tomorrow afternoon on the student portal and accessible by the parent portal as well, your transcripts, the one that we're sending, will be updated and there. Check it over, make sure it's right. As Ms. Mankey said, attention to detail. You guys need to do your side too. Make sure that it looks right to you. If you have questions, we can make the changes before we send it out. The second one, when you're ready, make an appointment with your counselor. I met with a student today and I said, everybody is at a different place right now. Some of you have finished your Common App and are ready to apply. Some of you have started it and have questions, and some of you may not have even thought about college yet until tonight. Or maybe you're still not thinking about it, but hopefully after tonight you do. But it doesn't really matter where you are because there's time. Everybody's on some sort of timeline for the early applications, for the regular applications, for the rolling applications. So there's plenty of time no matter where you are. I will say though, if you haven't started, you probably should start getting into your research piece, which is next. So the research is some things to consider. Which colleges have your major? Or are you going undecided and that's not a big question? A second one could be, what other programs are you interested in? Are you interested in playing intramural sports? Are you interested in playing in a marching band? Are you interested in writing for a high caliber student newspaper? Those are some things you want to think about. Where do you want to go? Urban, suburban, rural? You know, that could be important criteria to do. How big of a school? Small, medium, large? Do you want to be in the country or do you want to go outside the country for college? How competitive a college do you want to go to? Do you want to go to a very competitive college where you may be the middle of the class or maybe even the bottom of the class, or you want to be the big fish in a small pond and you're at the top of the class? Those are some things to think about. And also, can you afford to attend colleges? Those are probably some top criteria you should be using as you continue to research and finalize your schools, the ones that you're going to end up attending to. Finalizing your list. So some of you may have 30 schools on your list. Some of you may have 5. Well, 5 needs to grow a little bit and 30 needs to shrink a little bit because we certainly don't want you applying to 30 colleges. By the way, application fees are $50, $75, $100. That's why we say maybe you don't want to apply $30,000 on just $3,000 on application. Okay, one of those. Yeah, $3,000. What should your list look like? You should have some reaches, which are schools that are above the middle 50%. What is the middle 50%? So colleges publish a range of GPAs that they accept, and that's considered their middle 50%. So maybe it's an 88 to a 92 is their middle 50%. A reach school would be schools that if you are below that, so 88 was the bottom number. If you're like an 85, that's a reach school for you. If the high number is a 92 and you're a 95, that's probably a likely school. And then if you're right in the middle, that's a fit. Okay, so that's how you determine where you would fit into the class. Most of your applications should be in that fit category. You definitely want to have a couple below that, which are likelies. Some people call them safeties. We like to say likelies because we're never going to say you're going to get into any college. We're just going to always say you're most likely to get in there. But a lot of kids like to apply to 1, 2, 3, keep going number of reach schools. So the more reach schools you have, probably the more applications you're going to have, if that makes sense. The average number in the past applications from our students is about 7, and most kids apply to 6, 8, 10 kind of schools, depending on what that list looks like when you're done. The next one is handing in your resume. You did the resume in the college and career prep class, so that's already done. You just need to update it because a lot of stuff has happened from December 2020 when you did your resume. You did things in the spring. You may have gotten a job. You did some summer work. You got some honors at the honors reward ceremony. You've done some community service since then. You've gotten a leadership position because you're a senior. Maybe you have a leadership in the school musical. Maybe you have it on a sports team. So update those resumes so we have those. And get that to your school counselor. Share it with us. That's all you have to do. Just hit share and send it over to us. You probably don't need it for your applications, but there's 2 things that's good for. 1, for us to have like an update of where you're at. And 2, there's an activities section on the Common App. And that activities section is asking for the information on your resume. Your resume has your work experience, your community service, your extracurriculars, your sports, your honors. All of that can be used on the Common App. So if you have it in one place, you just have to transfer it, not from there, but from there onto the actual Common App. It is one nice place to be a keeper for you. The next one's the forms and documents. Some of you have handed these in. Thank you so much. But there's a parent brag sheet. Parents, there's something we ask you to fill out. Students, there's a student data sheet. We ask you to fill out something as well. These 2 documents are helpful in writing your letter of recommendation. We know you. Do we know everything about you? No. But when we're using adjectives to describe you and we can relate them to something in your life that we don't know, something maybe outside of school you've done, it really pulls the letter together. So in a sense, you're helping to write your letter along with us. And we take bits and pieces of everything so that we can make this wonderful picture of you as students. So those 2 forms are important. We need those before we write your letter of rec. So Mr. Miller referred to October 15th as an early action application. We need those about 2 weeks ahead of time. Tomorrow's October 1st. So if we don't have your forms and you're looking at October 15th, please maybe spend this weekend working on those forms and getting them to us. Paper copies are in our office. They're also online on the school counseling website. You'll find them. Again, it's called the student brag sheet and the student data sheet and the parent brag sheet. The next one is a transcript release form. Ms. Menke referred to, you need to fill out the FERPA online. You also need to fill out the paper one. And that, again, has the same information on the FERPA, but we have that because some schools are not on the Common App, as you heard. So that will cover the schools that are not on the Common App, and you saying that you're not going to read your letter of rec and you're telling us that we can release your transcripts. 3 important forms. Followed by that, if you'd like to share your essay, we'd be happy to take a look at it. We would love to read them, see what your essay is about. That's a decision up to you. Final testing. Again, I mentioned earlier it's a test optional year, so you can test and submit or test and not submit. So if you are going to submit your test scores, there's a couple ways to do that. Some schools want you to have them sent from the testing agency. So when you signed up for the ACT, you did sign up, then you viewed your scores. That was another tab. There's another tab that says send scores. So for the ACT, you have to go to the ACT website, hit send, and send your scores. And for the SAT, it's the College Board. That's if colleges require it. Colleges have started to give breaks to parents and students, and they're allowing you to self-report your scores, which means you can put them right on the Common App, or they may have a separate document for you to put those in, and you don't have to spend the money because each report from the testing agency costs money. They're allowing you to just self-report for now and save your money. And then if you go to that school, you have to send a final copy and go to the testing agencies. How do you know which ones? Unfortunately, there's no magic list of who is allowing you to self-report, so you're actually going to have to go into the website. I literally Google Quinnipiac testing self-report, and it brings me right to a page, and it tells me if I can self-report or not. So that's your best way to find that out. So unfortunately, we don't have any other way to do that at this point. If you are applying early action or early decision, you might be questioning if you are testing, what's the last test I can take? There's the October test for both exams, and then there's the November. You may or may not get away with the November test. That's going to depend on your school. Some schools allow you up to the November and then submit it, and some are like, nope, we need the documents by this date. So pay attention to those as you're going along. Requesting letters of recommendation. Ms. Mankey covered some of this, but give them plenty of time, just like if it's 2 weeks from now, your teachers better know. You're probably picking 2 different disciplines, but definitely picking the teachers that know you the best and are going to write the best thing about you. Make sure we know who's writing for you because we know who to wait for. They're going to submit them right onto Naviance, and we will see that. And if we know who's writing it, we know if we only have one, say Ms. Falchetti, then we're going to, and you ask Ms. Swick, then we're going to wait for Ms. Swick and then send your applications out with those counselor recs. Don't pressure your teachers. Did you write it yet? Did you write it yet? Did you write it yet? And if they didn't, I don't know how good that letter of rec is going to be if you keep bothering them, okay? So be careful. You can check in, but don't pressure. I don't think I've ever had a teacher miss a deadline, so they'll get there. If you have a November 1st deadline, it'll get there by November 1st. Maybe it goes on the 31st, maybe it goes tomorrow, but it will get there, and it doesn't matter if it goes today or October 31st because there's a set deadline. Applications are due by November 1st. It doesn't matter if you submitted your application in August or that day. Speaking of which, you send yours, we send ours. You don't have to wait for your transcript to be there. We don't have to wait for your application to be there. When you're ready and you've gotten all through all these steps, you submit when you're ready. And when we have all your stuff, we submit. It could be a day apart, a week apart, 2 weeks apart, just so you know. Don't wait. Keep that in mind. Schedule interviews. This is not really happening much anymore with COVID and wasn't prior to, but if you have the opportunity to interview and you think you'd be good at it, then go ahead and do it. Okay, very few colleges are going to require them, if any, so it's kind of a moot point, but if you get a phone call and they want you to do it, most of them will probably be with an alumni and maybe somewhere local so that the admission reps aren't out there meeting with everybody and you don't have to go to the school. So that's how that may work. Visiting college campuses. Some campuses are open for visits. Some have minimal openings for college visits, and then there's the virtual visits that I spoke about earlier. Any way that you can see what the school offers visually is great. If you can get on a campus, I always say it's so much better to see, feel, touch, smell a campus. That often can help you make a decision, but that's going to depend on the colleges that you're looking for. And make sure you register for the events. Demonstrated interest, as Mr. Miller mentioned earlier. If they see your name, that you were there and you visited and you came to the virtual visit here and you went to an open house and you did this, that could be helpful. It's not a huge thing anymore this year because they know that there are some limitations, but it's still an opportunity for them to let you know that you are interested. Then you're completing your personal and supplemental essays. You've been writing your essays in the spring with your junior English teachers, and now your senior English teachers are asking you to follow up and meet with them to kind of finalize your essay. It may be the same essay, you may have changed your mind, whatever it is, you're definitely working on those. So there's the Common App essay, that's the one that goes to all the schools, and then each of the schools, as Ms. Menke mentioned earlier, have supplemental questions. They also may have these supplemental essays, so make sure you look at those ahead of time. Some schools have them and some don't, and you don't want to be thrown with, okay, I'm going to apply here. Oh my gosh, I have to write 3 essays? And it's 3 days before the deadline. So look into the requirements earlier rather than later. Deadlines, Ms. Menke talked about getting organized, whatever it is. Every year I have to add to this because technology keeps changing. So it started with spreadsheets and Post-its and a dry erase board on the refrigerator. Then it went to smartphone alerts and Google reminders and notes. And I'm sure you have 100 million other ways to do it, but find something that works for you. And share it. Share it with friends. Hey, I'm doing this. Why don't you do this? Community service, not so much part of the application process, but we throw it in because there is a community service requirement of 40 hours, right? Yes, everybody remember that? I don't have enough people today, so it might not make as much of an impression, so Ms. Menke knows what I'm going to say right now. So show of hands, who's completed your 40 hours of community service? All right, ready? Ready, ready? Keep them up if you've handed in all the documentation. Ooh, all right, we're looking good. That's good. Usually that is half the people haven't handed it in, so congratulations for getting those in. Those of you at home, I hope you participated by stretching and raising your arm and doing that little exercise. Note, first quarter grades may be sent to your early action schools. They might want to see how you're doing so far this year. You do not want an incomplete on your transcript. So get your community service hours done by then so you don't have an incomplete for community service, because that is the grade that will go in first quarter if they're not done. Of note, they should be done by the end of third quarter regardless. Mr. Miller talked about going line by line with you on your college applications. So get in and see us. We know what to look for. We know what colleges are looking for, so we can give you helpful hints, edits, etc. But leave us time. Don't show up the day before you're going to submit, because if we have suggestions, you're going to need to go home and make those changes. So give us a good amount of time to help you with that. Submitting the FAFSA and the CSS profile, Ms. Menke referred to that. You can start submitting tomorrow, just as a reminder, October 1st. So you want to work on that and get that in so that your financial aid piece is done. You can go to check that off the box, literally right in front of you. And then Ms. Menke talked about requesting the transcripts. So that's kind of your checklist. We sent an earlier one with maybe some other ideas on it. It was an outside source for you to consider, but this is what we think is most important and what will help you get yourself organized and get yourself to that submit application button down the road from here. Okay, to do now, students, that you are very familiar with that phrase. Parents, this is what they do when they go into the most classrooms, to do now. So to do now, return those forms. Make that appointment with your counselor and apply for financial aid if you are applying for financial aid. Short and sweet, those 3 things should be of utmost priority, and then you're moving on to the rest of your checklist. These are the upcoming test dates. So you can see the October one's not on there because you would have already had to have registered for that. So that's why that's not there. So it's starting with November, moving forward. Some of you may be registered for the October. Don't worry, you could still take it. It's just not on here because these are future dates from this meeting on. So you have plenty of time to test still. You have a couple opportunities on the SAT and still time to register for it by next Friday. And you still have time for the ACT if you want to throw in another December one. Just remember what I said, some applications need to be complete by the early deadline, so the November one would be good. And again, you can go test optional. 60%, does anybody remember the number of people who went test optional in general? Yeah, around 60, 70% of people applied without submitting tests last year, just to give you an idea, okay? Some important dates and deadlines. The SUNY has college fairs, virtual college fairs, multiple dates, and it's put on by multiple of SUNY colleges. There's the FAFSA again. The CSS profile you can do throughout the fall. I would probably do it hand in hand with the FAFSA if you can. There's the Southern Westchester College Fair coming up. That is at Harrison High School, so that's in person. You can click on that link, and I know you can't click on the link here, and I know you can't click on the link there at home, but I'm going to get to that. The early applications, and then the SUNY CUNYs. They get a lot of applications to the SUNY schools and the CUNY schools, so the earlier you get them in, the better, especially the rolling ones. So we like to say, put a priority deadline of December 1st for yourself. That's not the actual deadline, but you should make that one for yourself. There's a bunch of different articles and resources that we've listed. The checklist, as Ms. Mankey said, there it is. I'm sorry, the checklist that I said is there. The schools that require the CSS profile, in case you were wondering, well, what schools do, it's usually the most expensive, and the private schools, so there's a whole list there. An article for parents about pressure in college applications, trying to figure out that match and fit, like what would be really good for me. Things you might want to avoid in your essay. There's 2 articles on the FAFSA, what you need to know, and what you need to complete, the materials that you need. Ms. Mankey talked about the non-advanced application process. That document is here. The activities list on the Common App. There's always questions about how do I fill this out? What should it look like? There's an article on that. And then questions to ask when you go to the virtual visits, whether you do the virtual visits here or you do a virtual visit on your own on the college website. These are good questions to ask. So my final point is thank you for being here, and we will share this PowerPoint in an email so that you can access all of those links. It will be sent to the students, okay, in their student email. So I'm going to rewind and go all the way back to the beginning. Check your emails. Everything we send is really important and relevant. So thank you, but we're open to questions. If anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. We did such a great job. Is that what you're saying? Oh, I got a thumbs up is good. Yeah, go ahead, Amadea. Nope, can't hear you. Can you go up to the mic if possible? Thank you. Thank you.
If I want to submit a recommendation letter from a person that's not a teacher or that doesn't work in Rye Neck, how do I submit their recommendation letter onto my application?
Okay, so the Common App has a place for additional recommenders. Okay, you will invite that recommender. Now, not all colleges will take an outside recommendation. Some colleges take no teacher recommendations, 1, 2, and then some will take from your clergy, from a professor, from a family friend, whatever it is. But you have the opportunity on the Common App to invite them, and that means they're gonna get an email, and then they're gonna submit their letter, and that will be ready for you to when we send. Then that letter will go to the colleges that accept that additional recommender.
Okay, thank you.
And we can walk you through that when you come in to review your Common App. Good question, because there are outside recommenders out there. Counselors, anything to add?
Come see us.
Yes, come see us. If that's not very clear, come see us. We have online calendars, so Mrs. Williams is the administrative assistant in our office in the back. She has our calendars to make appointments. You can email us to make appointments. You can just stop in. But if you have an appointment, we will see you. If you just stop in, you might be like, oh, she's busy. Oh, he's not there. If your name is on our calendar, we'll be there for you. So thank you, everybody. Safe trip home. Thank you for coming. Thank you at home for coming. We'll see you all soon.